you love Australia? Yeah, it's just a question. Do you love Australia? Because if you do love Australia, I've got an Australian scholarship for you. In my last video, which you'll find here, I did talk about an Australian scholarship and I told you it is time to go to Australia. The deadline for that is August 31st. So if you want to check out that scholarship, the video is just here. So just check the video out. However, in this one, we have another Australian scholarship, and this one is as beautiful as the first one. It is really good. I've got one for master's and another one for PhD. So, if you're interested in things like this, please remember to like and subscribe. If you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Brendo. I'm a doctoral student here at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom, and I received full funding for my studies. And always, I would always tell you, it helped me to see that you don't have to be the best. You don't necessarily need to be the best. You just have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate in your application process. And if you are, you will secure the scholarship. There are two scholarships we're going to look at, and they are beautiful. Now, you know, searching for scholarship can sometimes be frustrating. It is rigorous, it takes so much time. I'm going to be honest, I've just spent 3 hours researching scholarship, taking my time to understand this scholarship so I can give you the best step-by-step guide. And I mean it, the best step-by-step guide to apply for the scholarship. And all I need you to do is relax. Just relax and watch the video. And when you watch the video, apply to the scholarship. Also, if you don't mind, I would like you to like the video, subscribe, share with anyone who you think is interested. It encourages me a lot. It helps me to see that you see the effort I put in and you appreciate it, and it really encourages me and gives me the momentum, the drive to go on. So that's that for the introduction. If you want to go to Australia, then this is one of the video you must watch. So let's start with the Masters of Commerce Scholarship. So this is the only scholarship I found. Now, you wouldn't believe me when I tell you there are about 120 scholarship and I went through each one. I was filtering through each one to find out a scholarship that covers full tuition with stipend for you. And I'm happy to find this. So whenever I go through scholarship pages like this, university pages to find scholarship, I have you in mind to give you the best. And I'm glad that you do appreciate it. So once again, do remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll receive notification once I release any video. So let's start with this first one. This is the Master of Commerce Scholarship. Okay, it says the Master of Commerce Scholarship is a research-oriented program preparing students for doctoral school, or which is PhD, and an academic career. Now you can read more of these on your own. I do not want this video to be very long, but the idea is that it provides relevant coursework or coursework relevant to the specialization. Okay, and it also helps you to demonstrate strong research capability that will progress to your PhD. And I'll tell you why this particular area is very important soon. It says selection is highly competitive. Listen, I also want to mention here, when you see something that says highly competitive, do not immediately disqualify yourself if you think, oh, I did not get this degree, I did not get this distinction, I did not. No, don't do that. All right? Calm down, chill. You can. It is highly competitive, but you can secure the scholarship. Remember, I said at the intro, you do not have to be the best. All you have to be is determined. Believe in yourself and put in your best effort. Just submit a strong application. Be intentional about this. All shortlisted applicants will be automatically considered. So you can apply to this one and you'll be automatically considered. Now, what is the value? Well, first of all, the deadline it says 15th of October each year or 30th of April. Now, depending on the period you're starting, okay? Now, the value is full tuition fees paid plus an allowance of equivalent to the current PhD stipend rate per annum for up to 2 years because it's a master's degree work, it's 2 years. So you'll get your full tuition fees and an allowance. You get your allowance, your regular allowance. And I think I've read a policy document. You wouldn't even believe how far I went in this research. There's a policy document that says your stipend will be paid fortnightly. So every 2 weeks you receive your stipend. Good stuff. And the number offered is variable. By variable, we mean we don't know. We don't know how many there are, but we know there are scholarships. So please apply to the scholarship. You can read the testimonial from, I don't want to pronounce his name, but it's Yang. to see what it feels. To be eligible, you must meet one of the following. And what we're interested in is this, an international student. That's what matters to us. You must meet the following two, a current full-time Monash student or an applicant to enroll full-time. So basically, if you're looking for part-time, you may not get this. You would not get it anyways. You're not eligible for this scholarship if you are or you become employed on a continuing basis or on a fixed term for 3 months or greater. So that is to say, if you're not eligible for this scholarship, if you are, you become employed on a continuing basis of a fixed term contract for 3 months or greater. So you might need more clarification on this area. Yeah, but that is when it comes to employment when you get to Australia. For the first thing is get there first. Okay. Now, what are the benefits? Full tuition plus an allowance of 36,000 Australian dollars. And the scholarships are available for either year one or year two. But remember, you can always retain the scholarship. This is important. So, year one, year two, you could get it for year one and not get it for year two. Why? It depends on how you perform in year one. So, if you know that you need to give in your best in your year one, so you must maintain full-time enrollment. You must give it your best foot. Okay. And the selection criteria is based on outstanding academic achievement, interest in research career in the relevant discipline, and interview performance. So which means there is going to be interview here, but you don't have to fret. You don't have to fret. Nothing here should make you feel like, oh, you know what, I'm going to pass on this one. You don't have to do that. Just submit your application and go right in. If you're going to go into academia, if you want to apply for scholarship, you know it's going to be competitive, but you have what it takes. Just believe in yourself. Trust me. Believe in yourself. You have what it takes. The interview, the relevant discipline experience, the outstanding academic achievement, you have all of them. If for any reason you don't have anyone, you have something that can make up for that. But your application would set you apart if you submit a strong application. Remember, you have to be intentional. All right. How to apply? Well, you can read on this process, and it says shortlisted applicants will be invited to attend a 30-minute interview with a panel. Okay, and I would assume this will be done virtually. Okay, for those in other countries. Now, it says the scholarship can also be deferred under special circumstances. Okay. And that is that on this particular one. For language requirements, we'll talk about that when we're looking at the PhD scholarship. It's similar for language requirements from Monash University. I will leave a link to the Master of Commerce Scholarship, this webpage. I'll leave it in the description. So if you want to apply to Master of Commerce Scholarship, please check the description. You'll find that. All right, now let's talk about the doctoral scholarship. Now, this one is Monash International Tuition Scholarship, MITS. Now, what is it? It is provided by Monash universities to support international students undertaking research doctorate and research master's degree. So, for master's by research or doctoral studies, this scholarship covers that. And it ends on the 31st of August each year or 31st of March. So, this particular quarter we're applying to, or this particular period we're applying to, start in April, on April 1st and ends 31st August. Now, it covers full tuition. It covers full tuition. Now, it does not cover stipend. No, it does cover stipend, although it's not mentioned here. It's not mentioned here, but it covers full tuition. Okay, it does cover full tuition. I don't want to mention something about stipend yet. Okay, it says full tuition and single health cover. But there's a dot. When I read the policy document, it did mention it provides stipend. Now, what I want you to understand is even if this one does not provide stipend, I looked at the scholarship page of this university. You can see them here. I checked every single one, and there's so many things you can apply to that would give you your stipend. Just so you know, there are so many things you can apply to that would give you a stipend. So do not allow the stipend discourage you. But if you think you want everything, including the tuition and stipend first before you apply to anything, then fine, you can pass. But I think you should apply if you think you want it. If you think it's deserving, you can apply to it. Okay. Now the number varies, and by varies, it means we do not know how many there are. So go on and submit the application. Go on and submit the application, and you could be considered. For you to be eligible, you must be an international student. The benefit, it covers your course tuition fees for the 4 years and the health cover. Okay. Now, you must meet the following criteria. You must meet the competitive scholarship selection process requirement. We're going to look at it here. We'll look at it here. And then meet the Monash English language proficiency requirement. We're also going to talk about that briefly. Okay, we'll get there. The selection criteria, it's very competitive and awarded based on academic record, research output, and prior research experience. Now look at those three things. Let's consider them. Academic record, research output, and prior research experience. So if you have that, you're good to go. If you don't have that, of course, you have prior research experience. For you to be applying to a doctoral program, you did masters, and for your masters, you did a research project. For your undergraduate, you also did a research project. So that is your research experience. So you have research experience. And then for your research output, if you have publication, fine. Even if it's something you wrote on a website that is research related or something related to your field, then submit the application. Do not, and then it's also based on your academic record. Yes, your academic record, even if you graduated with a 2-1, you can apply to this scholarship because you don't even know the other people applying. Do you know what they have? So submit your application and present it well. Packaging. Remember that. Always remember that. Now, how to apply, there is the detail of how to apply. We're going to look at that later, but evidently there are two rounds, round one and round three, and we're focused on this one that closes 31st August. Okay, and the selection criteria, okay, we've looked at that. Now, how to apply, let's now go to something else. So if you click on the application process, it takes you here. Now, for the scholarship, it's a centrally managed scholarship, and you have to meet the eligibility criteria. I've looked at that. So after that, you already know you met the eligibility criteria. That's fine. You need to submit an expression of interest. Now, this is the first university I've seen with this particular one. You need to submit an expression of interest. Get a supervisor, submit an expression of interest. And if they look at your application and be like, oh, yeah, I think we like this dude, then they tell you, you can then apply. So, which means what you're submitting is just an expression of interest. So, what stops you from submitting an expression of interest? And if they tell you you can apply, you go ahead and apply. It doesn't hurt, but you need to go through this process. You can watch all the application videos of scholarships. If you do not take action, it yields nothing. So, you have to apply to the scholarship. So, submit an expression of interest. You could pick anyone here, anyone of your choice. But of course, I would always go for education. I could pick any symbol, click on education, and it will bring us here. But before then, let's just finish this page, okay? Now, and then when you go through that process, it says when your expression of interest is successful, the faculty will issue you with an invitation to apply. But like I said, first you need to submit your expression of interest. Now, when you submit your application, something to keep in mind is there's somewhere it says it takes 6 weeks. 6 weeks would be a month and 2 weeks. So you have to submit the application. This is June. So you have to submit the application before the end of June to be considered. So remember that so that you can also be considered for the scholarship. Okay. You also have to be considered for the scholarship. So please submit the application as soon as possible. Yeah, this is it. Application for admission can take up to 6 weeks to be processed and would usually be assessed after scholarship results have been released. So please submit your application as soon as possible. Don't save for later, and that's why I'm making this video early. Please submit this application as soon as possible. These other parts are not relevant to us. So we simply come here. Let's say we've selected education. So how to apply for a research degree in education? Now we've selected education. For example, I say if you come here, you click on education, it brings you here. How to do that? Well, there are 4 steps. First one, review your eligibility, review course and eligibility. For Doctor of Philosophy and Master of Philosophy, there is no fixed commencement date because it's at your own pace. But at your own pace, it doesn't mean you have to do it for 10 years. It's full time. So 3.5 years maximum or 4 years. But I think 3.5 years. You can click on both of them and it will tell you what is required of each one. For PhD in education, you see the qualification you get and the location, full time, and other things, the entry requirement. But you can just check that on your own, depending on your particular program. Now, the next thing we want to look at is you search for potential supervisor. How do you do that? Now, when you click on find a supervisor, you get a list of supervisors, and then you email your proposed supervisor. And what you are emailing should contain your research proposal. So your research proposal should be one of the things you submit um, when contacting your supervisor. And this is key. Someone sent me a message or wrote something on the comment that supervisors do not respond. Now, if you do not, they would always get email from students or from interested applicants. Why should they pay attention to you? Which means you must make your email different from others. I will make a separate video on how to write a code email. But here you don't even need that. You can write to the supervisor. And like I said, if you've watched my last video, the one I talked about another Australian scholarship, I mentioned this. Learn to apply, write to supervisors. There's a particular way you write to them. You need to be familiar with their research area. Besides being familiar with their research area, you need to also know some of the works they've written. And if possible, read some of the works and pick out one or two things that is interesting from their most recent work and talk about it. And say you were looking to apply in something related to that, that you've considered them to be experts in that field and you want them to be your supervisors. So you must tell them something about their own work. If possible, also follow them on LinkedIn and check their recent posts on LinkedIn to see what they've been talking about. Does their research area align with yours? And if it does, then go ahead. Otherwise, how would your own proposal or your contacting the proposal supervisor, potential supervisor, be different from that of many other people? So remember that you need to also attach your full academic transcript of previous qualification, a detailed CV, 3 to 4 pages of your thesis proposal. Now, speaking of proposal, I think I can share my own proposal here with you. Just bear with me a moment. I should have had that open, but for some reason, I don't have that. Okay, so I will get my PhD proposal open and I will show you a sample of what the proposal should look like. Because here it says you need your research title, a brief summary, your literature review, arguments for gap in the research, your methodology. There is a proposal guideline here. And if you follow that proposal guideline, you should be able to see how to apply to that. But I will share mine with you and then show you what it's like. Okay. Just give me a moment and I will show you that. Okay. All right. While I do that, just bear with me 2 seconds. Okay. Now, let's go on. I would show you that proposal guideline later. Just because of time, I don't want to keep you. Then the next one is you submit an expression of interest from online. So you see the process for the doctoral program. You review the course and check your eligibility. You set your potential supervisor. Now you submit an expression of interest online after. Now it comes after you already get a supervisor who approves or agrees to supervise you. Okay, when you get that to do that, and you have to only see, you may be issued with an invitation to apply via email, which entitles you to proceed and formally apply for admission. Application without that, without the invitation to apply, will not be considered. Now, here's the expression of interest form. If you click on this, and let's just open this on a new tab, and here you find the expression of interest form. So you click on full name, and then you just go on and submit the details. Okay. Now, and then after all of this is done, you can then submit your uh, application. Okay, so remember the process. But before we talk about the other process, let's look at the English language requirement. For English language requirements, I can tell you for a fact, if you're from selected countries, you do not need to provide any English language text. Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia, Australia, Jamaica, you don't need to apply. So if your country is on this list, someone asked me on the chat about Pakistan. Pakistan is not here, unfortunately. But if your country is on this, including Malawi, you do not need to apply to, you don't need any other language test. Okay. Otherwise, if it's not there, then you might need language test. And considering that the general requirement is a 6.5 for IELTS, I would think that is fair. I would think that is fair. All right. Okay, so that is that. Now, there is a scholarship policy. Now, the reason I did this search for scholarship policy, you wouldn't even believe it. I had to read the research scholarship policy and procedure just to be sure there is no other thing that you'd need to know. Um, so that sometimes you could find a particular clause somewhere would say something. So what I did was there's one research training scholarship policy, and then there's a research scholarship procedure. You wouldn't believe I read both documents just to see if there would be anything that is suspicious that would disqualify anybody, or just any information we'll find helpful. And yes, there's something I found helpful. All right. So if you really appreciate the effort I put into this, if you've been watching the video to this point, okay, if you've been watching the video up until this point, could you please just say the word? Let's use something like just say point. So we'll use the word point. So if you write point on the comment section, I would know you've watched the video up until this time, and it would really mean that you've been here, and that would be really supportive. I would appreciate that so much. Okay, now let's talk about this. So I read this document, that's me trying to zoom in, and I'm going to show you some things that are relevant. Now it says for some of them there's stipend, and I do not know why that one does not involve stipend, but we're not too sure yet. It says to be eligible for the stipend, you must meet clause 2.6. And if we go to clause 2.6, it says to be eligible for stipend scholarship, an applicant must not be receiving income from another source. Okay, you must not be receiving income from another source while undertaking your program where the income is greater. Oh my days, what did I do? Excuse me, my apologies. Where the income is greater than 75% of what the university offers. Okay. And something else I think is important is for your application, for your application, please do note for the graduate research committee. Now, that is why I think it's important I did this research, and I'm so happy I did, because by reading this policy document, I'm able to give you something that would help you to stand out, like something that would make your work a bit different. Now, it says the graduate research committee will prioritize applicants who, in this case, who have not previously completed a graduate research master's or doctoral degree at the same course level. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because if for any reason you've done a research master's, not just taught masters, there's taught masters where you take courses. Now, research masters, you have to provide something that looks like a doctoral study thesis. Now, what we're saying here is if you have done a research master's or doctoral degree, you would not be considered. So it might be helpful not to include that in your application process or in your CV if you've done that already and you want to look at a different field, unless you can justify that. So I thought this would be helpful. Is there anything else I found here? Yes, other funds. So you're also permitted to work. Yeah, I also read the document up until this point to tell you how rigorous, how meticulous I have become for your sake. Okay, so for scholarship, you're also allowed to receive income derived from paid employment. So the fact that you've received a scholarship does not mean that you cannot work. You can work as long as you meet the attendance requirements. So just make sure you're going to classes or doing the regular. No, you won't be going to classes, but just make sure you continue meeting with your supervisors. And if you do that, then you're good to go. So there you have it, guys. That's a summary of everything. Remember, it's from the University of Monash. We have the Master of Commerce Scholarship, and we also have the Monash International Tuition Scholarship that covers full tuition. And like I said, I think it covers stipend, but it doesn't mention here. But even though it doesn't, there are many scholarships on the page where you can apply to the scholarship. For English language requirements, you do not need to be bothered if you're from any of these selected countries. And from the policy document that we've just summarized, you can work while studying. I also want to bring out the research proposal. So here is a sample of my research proposal. I'm just going to zoom in. Now there are different sections here. It mentions research context, which will present the literature review, your research question, the implications, the methodology you would use, the time scale. This would set you apart. You see this whole thing here will set your work apart because it means that you really took the time. You took the time. You can see, and then you talk about what makes you prepared for this work, and then you can have your references. So if you need a sample of these or you need a guide on the research proposal, just indicate in the comment section and I will share that with you. So once again, that's evidence of detailed research done on this. So is it time to go to Australia? Well, you tell me because I think it's about time you traveled already. So you can be in Australia in 2026 if you submit this application. And remember, you don't have to be the best. You can secure the scholarship. Just be deliberate, be intentional. If you need any assistance or if there's a part that is not clear, please watch that part again. But if you still do not understand it, you can leave a question in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer that. And I would always want to end the video with all the best in your scholarship pursuit.